Do you need help writing your essays? Hi there, my name is Brian Collins and welcome to the Become a Writer Today channel. Writing essays isn't always easy. I remember when I first started learning how to write essays for a college assignment. I spent hours writing and reworking all of the sentences and paragraphs inside of my essay. Then I submitted it to a lecturer who evaluated it and gave me a nearly fail grade. He said that I hadn't really included a thesis statement, my citations were all over the place, and the essay just wasn't very good. It took me some time to learn how to write essays. Since then, I've figured out what works if you need to write your essay. So in this video, I'm going to give you 10 different tips which will help you write essays, whether it's for university or third level, or perhaps it's a piece of personal non-fiction. Let's dive in. My first tip is to read your essay brief. Now I say read because typically an academic will give you a brief for your essay that you need to address. Or if you're writing an essay for a publication, chances are they're going to give you some sort of brief that you need to follow if you want to get published. Even if you're writing the essay for yourself because it's a piece of creative work, it's a good idea to come up with some sort of brief on a one-page document on your computer before you start to write it, because it's going to save you a lot of time during the editing process. Of course, the essay brief should explain who is this essay for. In other words, who is the target audience? Is it academics? Is it lecturers? Is it people who have an interest in a specific niche or niche topic? Secondly, the essay brief should explain what the essay should be about. So perhaps there's a question you need to answer, there's an argument that you need to put forward, or there's an idea that you need to explore. And of course, the essay brief will explain where the essay will appear, if anywhere. So if it's for academia, chances are it's not going to appear anywhere unless you're submitting to a journal. But if on the other hand you're submitting to an online publication, then this section of the brief may explain what section of the publication the essay will get published on. And then you can read other essays in that section to see what format you should follow and so on. And of course, a good essay brief will also give you some guidelines about word count. Let's say you got a word count of 3,000 words. Well, here's a good rule of thumb. You can go plus or minus 10% in either direction. But if you go several thousand words over, then you're just going to annoy your editor or whoever is evaluating the essay. And it's actually more difficult to write shorter essays than longer essays because you need to be more concise and put your arguments forward more clearly. I also like it when an essay brief explains what other essayists, academics, journalists or authors have covered this topic, because then I can use this as a type of reading list to figure out what the prevailing thinking on this topic is before I start to write my essay. And of course, your essay brief may also provide information about the correct style. If you're in academia, it may say whether you need to use MLA, APA, Chicago Manual of Style, or the Harvard Manual of Style, and so on. Or it may simply have guidelines about how to use informal language, academic language, whether it's creative, and whether you should include citations, footnotes, and everything like that. And these are all things that you need to get right depending on who your audience is for and if your essay has been graded or simply published online. My second essay writing tip is to write a thesis statement. And this is something that you're going to do after you've read the literature and you've gathered your brief for the essay in question. If you're unfamiliar with the concept of a thesis statement, it's simply a sentence or two, or perhaps even a short paragraph that explains what your essay is about and the argument that you're going to put forward. It'll save you a lot of time during the writing and editing process, but it could take a little bit of time to craft your thesis statement. A good thesis statement will set out your opinion in a topic. It will justify why the essay is worth writing, why it's worth writing for all of the hours that you're going to spend on it. And no, because it's for academia is not a good enough reason. It will also justify why the essay is worth reading. A good thesis statement is also very specific, and it includes a how or a why. It doesn't necessarily need to include the words how or why, but it needs to explain how you're going to put forward an argument or why your argument is correct or incorrect. Some examples? Well, here are two. Let's say you're writing an essay about cryptocurrencies being a scam. Well, here's a thesis statement that you could use for this essay. Cryptocurrencies and non-fungible tokens are a scam that take money from honest investors by promising impossible gains. So in this case, the how is here. So cryptocurrencies take money from investors because of the way that they promise impossible gains. And then I will go forward in the essay and I will provide a list of arguments for all of the different ways that crypto and NFTs take money away from unknowing investors. Let's say you're writing an essay about earning a living online as a writer or a content creator. Well, here's a sample thesis statement you could use for this essay. Earning a living from writing online is easier than ever today because content creators can build a publishing empire from their bedroom using free tools. In this case, here's the why. The why is content creators can build a publishing empire from their bedroom. The free tools that we've all access to are the reasons why it's easier than ever to earn a living as a writer. Then in my article, I would provide examples of these free tools and examples of how other writers and content creators have used these free tools to earn a good living, how much they've earned, and how they did it. So you can see that both of these thesis statements are really specific. They include a conceptual how or a why, and they also provide a justification for why you should read this particular essay. And they also set out my opinion on this topic. My third essay writing tip is to create an outline of your essay before you start writing the sentences in your particular essay. I think outlines are key for any non-fiction writer. You can create an essay outline using an app like this, which is Workflowy, and elsewhere in the Become a Writer Today channel, I have extensive videos about how to create outlines. Or if you don't fancy using digital tools, that's okay. You can use index cards or a whiteboard or even a large sheet of paper. Sometimes you may only need to spend 5 or 10 minutes drafting out a rough outline for your essay. Or if it's a more complicated topic, you may want to spend several hours on it. The detail that you put into your outline depends on the word count, the complexity of the essay, and how well you know the topic in question. You may only need 5 to 7 bullet points, or you may need an entire page that outlines the arguments that you're going to put forward. The key sections that you'll have in your outline are, of course, your introduction and your conclusion, and I'll talk about those in a few moments. And then you will also have the body of the outline, which may include 5 to 7 points if, for example, you're writing a 2,000 to 3,000 word essay. And each point may be 2 to 3 paragraphs long, and usually you'll have one idea per paragraph. And of course, you want to justify each of your ideas with a reference, citation, stat, or a quote if it's for academia. If you're short on sources, try sources like Google News, Google Scholar, your books that you've read or from your reading list, Statista, which is a fantastic website for finding stats and figures, and also help a reporter out. Now, typically, I like creating an outline because it's organic and you can move things around. You can use bullet points like I have on screen. And this is much quicker than writing out a couple of paragraphs and then deciding, you know what, I've said the completely wrong thing for my essay. Now that you have an outline and a thesis statement, you're going to write the conclusion. Why write the conclusion first? Well, it can be very difficult to figure out what your essay is about if you don't understand the key ideas inside of your essay. So often the conclusion can give you a constraint within which to frame your body of your essay and even the introduction. The job of a good conclusion is to synthesize or combine your arguments into a paragraph or perhaps even 2 to 3 paragraphs. It may include a personal insight based on your analysis of all of the research on this particular topic or a takeaway for readers. The conclusion should also remind readers why the argument that you put forward in your essay matters. If you're struggling with this, ask yourself this question: so what? So cryptocurrencies are a scam. So what? Why does that even matter? Well, you're going to summarize why it even matters in your conclusion. Or if it's easier than ever to earn a living online today as a content creator, so what? Why does that even matter? Well, again, put the answer to that in your conclusion. You could also provide an action or next step for your reader if it's an online essay rather than something for academia. Or you could even end on a provocative question if it's something more creative. Or you could end with a prediction. So play around with your conclusion, take a little bit of time to write it, and I guarantee writing the rest of the essay will come easier. Conversely, you're going to write your introduction last. It's much easier to write your introduction last if you already know what's in the body of your essay and what's in the conclusion. Now, a good introduction really depends on where your essay is going to appear and who it's for. So you're going to start an essay for academia, very different to something that you're going to do for an online publication. But typically, you can start an introduction in a number of different ways. You can include a compelling statistic that's really stood out, or perhaps you have a good story that you found in your research where you can tell that in your introduction. Or you may have some sort of imagery that you want to draw upon as a metaphor. Or perhaps you have a quote when you interviewed somebody, or a quote that you came across in your research. Well, you could open with that in your first paragraph. Or you may have some insight that you want to tell in the first paragraph or in your introduction. Whatever way you start your introduction, spend a little bit of time in the first sentence, because that's how you're going to hook the attention of readers and of people who are evaluating your essay. Once you've done that, you're going to set forward the argument that you're going to elaborate on in the body of your essay in a bit more detail. You're also going to explain why the topic matters in more detail than you've done in the thesis statement. So this may take you a couple of paragraphs to do before you include a subpage to continue with the body of your essay. Now, another good tip that I like is to include a callback. A callback is basically something in the conclusion that will refer to something in the introduction. So if, for example, you opened with a compelling story, you could refer to that story in the conclusion as well as in the introduction, and this will give your essay a type of cohesive whole. It will make it feel that it's something that's more enjoyable for readers. And this is why if you write the introduction last, it's much easier to include these types of callbacks. Now it's time to write the body of your essay. How you approach writing the body of your essay really does depend on the complexity of the topic and the length of the essay, and also how formal versus informal it is. That said, it's helpful if you gather all of your research and all of your notes before you sit down to write the body, because there's nothing more distracting than getting a couple of hundred words into an essay and then having to go and check something online. If you're writing a longer essay that's several thousand words long, you're certainly not going to finish the body in one writing session. So instead, break that 3,000 or 4,000 word count down into much smaller word counts that you can tick off one by one. So you could set yourself a target of writing 300 words for your essay every day. And if you do that for 7 days, then you'll have written 2,000 words. And if you do it for 2 weeks, then you'll have gone over 4,000 words. I also like using a timer if I'm finding it difficult to focus. And this is based on the Pomodoro technique. Basically, I'll put on a pair of these noise cancelling headphones. I'll set a timer for 25 minutes and I'll just write a key section for the essay until the buzzer sounds. And then when the buzzer sounds, I'll take a short break. I'll maybe stand up, stretch, and then I'll reset the timer and go for another 25 minutes. I'll stack 4 of these sessions on top of each other, which equates to between an hour and a half and 2 hours, and then I'll take a longer break. And often, that level of deep focus is enough to make meaningful progress on an essay or a longer writing project. And don't forget, when you're writing the body of your essay, you're going to write it and try and hit that word count or complete those Pomodoro sessions without editing, because these are 2 different activities, and I'll cover how you should edit your essay in a moment. And of course, if you're finding all of that typing a little bit difficult, consider exploring dictation. So you could use speech-to-text software like Dragon Anywhere, which I sometimes use, or you could use a transcription service like rev.com or an AI transcription service like otter.ai. And I have reviews of both tools on the Become a Writer Today site. I like using speech-to-text software and sometimes transcription services because it's much harder to edit with these types of services. They just simply force you to get the ideas out of your head and into your dictaphone or into your phone, and then you get it transcribed. And of course, that's the job of any first draft, including a first draft of an essay, to exist rather than to be something that you're going to publish straight away. One of the most painful parts of an essay is handling citations. Depending on whether you're using the Harvard Manual of Style or the Chicago Manual of Style or APA, it can take hours to get all of the citations right. How exactly should you format dates, numbering, full stops, and so on? And you can actually lose valuable marks for your essay if you get citations or if you handle citations incorrectly. So to help, I recommend that you use some citation software. I've tested a couple of different types of software which are reviewed elsewhere in the Become a Writer Today channel. 2 examples that I think are particularly good are Quillbot, which has a dedicated citation manager or citation generator, which you can use. You simply put in the piece of text that you want to cite, and then you pick the citation style, and it will automatically give you a piece of text that you can paste into the citation section of your essay. If you're looking for something else, plagiarismcheck.org also handles citations in the same way. Simply paste the link in and it will give you a citation that's correctly formatted that you can paste into the body of your essay. Now, if you're writing more complex academic work like a thesis, or if you're writing lots of essays, you may need to go a step further and use dedicated research management software that includes features for citations. 2 popular examples include Zotero, which is a type of personal assistant for research, because you can drag all of your academic papers in and it will give you all of the correct citations that you can use, and you can generate a reference section for your essays. Papers is one that I used when I was writing my thesis, and I use it because it's available for Mac, and I found this was excellent for annotating papers, PDFs, and also for generating citations for Word and for Google Docs. So in short, if you're looking for something quick and easy for generating your citations, use Quillbot or Plagiarism Check. And you can also use these to grammar check your articles, and I'll cover that in a moment. If you're looking for something that's a bit more dedicated, or you're writing multiple essays, then consider investing in dedicated research management software like Zotero or Papers. Brings me to my 9th essay writing tip, which is to use some sort of grammar checker software, because it will be a shame to spend hours laboring over your essay only to lose valuable marks or to not get published because of a grammar mistake that you overlooked. And while the grammar checkers in Microsoft Word and Google Docs are fine, sometimes it's good to use a professional grammar or a premium grammar checker if you want to find and fix additional errors. If you're already using Quillbot for your citations, it actually includes a grammar checker that you can use, which I think is particularly good. And I also like it because it includes a plagiarism checker. So if you're worried about accidental plagiarism, you can use Quillbot to scan your articles or to scan your essays for instances where you've cited somebody else or referred to somebody else, but you haven't cited them correctly. So this can help you avoid accidental plagiarism. You can also use Grammarly in the same way. Basically, paste your essay into Grammarly, run the plagiarism checker, and it'll show you instances of where quotations and other sentences have appeared elsewhere online. And of course, if you get flagged with one of these, simply include a link or a citation so you can avoid accidental plagiarism. Plagiarismcheck.org works in the same way, although it doesn't have the dedicated grammar checker. So you'll more use this for finding missing citations and accidental plagiarism. ProWriting8 is another popular tool which is built for long form writing, and it works quite well with Scrivener, which is a fantastic essay writing app that you may want to use. And I like it because you can move different sections of your essays around. So if you're using Scrivener, then I do recommend using ProWriting8 to grammar check your essays. My final essay writing tip is to get feedback. Get feedback before and after you submit your essays for publication. Of course, this depends on the guidelines from your academic institution or where your essay is going to appear. But you could, for example, send your essay to beta readers who can provide you information about the different parts of the essay that they find boring. And this is an approach that indie authors use when they're self-publishing their books. You will, of course, require an email list or some sort of readership to contact beta readers. If you don't have that, consider asking people in your local creative writing group if it's a more personal or more creative essay. And then, of course, you can provide feedback on their essays, and that way you're both improving as writers. On the other hand, if it's an academic essay, perhaps you could show the essay to a fellow student and they could give you feedback on the different sections of the essay they found confusing, and you could do the same thing. If your essay is for a journal or publication and you get rejected for some reason, do ask your editor for a reason why it was rejected. And this could help you figure out if you need to tailor the arguments in your essay or it was simply the wrong type of essay for this particular journal or publication. And of course, if you get your essay is being evaluated or graded, then ask the lecturer for more detailed feedback if you got a grade that you were unhappy with. And again, this will help you improve with the quality of your essays. And when I did this, I actually found that one reason I was getting marked down in my essays was I was handling citations incorrectly. And of course, this prompted me to use the citation software that I talked about a few moments ago. Once I did this, I was able to improve the quality and the grades of future essays. And finally, if you're publishing the essay online and you have access, consider using analytics. You can use analytics to see how long people are spending reading your essays, where they're coming from, and what they're doing next. All of this can give you valuable information about the types of essays you should write more or less of. And you can find these types of analytics on platforms like Medium or even using Google Analytics. In other words, it's easier than ever to get feedback about your essays today. So there you go, those are my 10 essay writing tips. I will include some resources in the comment section below this video, which will help you with your essay. If you did find this video helpful, or if you have questions about writing essays, let me know in the comments section below. And of course, if you want to get more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel.